Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Your Mark on the World show. I'm your host, Devin Thorpe. I'm a Forbes contributor covering social entrepreneurship and impact investing, and our guest today is Ellie Skeele. She is the founder and CEO of Himalayan Wild Fiber, and we're going to have a great discussion, so stick around. You don't want to miss this. The Your Mark on the World show is made possible by our sponsors, including Clean Energy Advisors.
Welcome to Your Mark on the World, bringing you another changemaker with champion of social good, Devin D. Thorpe.
Ellie, welcome to the show. We're thrilled to have you and look forward to talking to you about Himalayan Wild Fibers.
Thanks so much. I'm thrilled to be here. It's a wonderful opportunity for me to get the message out.
So let's start, Ellie, by please tell us what is Himalayan Wild Fiber?
Himalayan Wild Fibers is a company that is commercializing a textile fiber that's extracted from a wild growing plant, the form of stinging nettle that grows in the forests of the Himalayas. It is wild harvested. We extract from that a fiber, we refine it, and then we sell it into existing developed supply chains. Our mission is to create income for these subsistence farmers who live up in the Himalayas and have struggled for centuries. And as an added benefit, we get to introduce a fabulous new sustainable fiber, and there's also a tremendous positive environmental impact.
How did you discover this fiber?
Oh gosh, if you're a tourist in Kathmandu and you go to the tourist district, you'll find things made like this scarf is the best thing I've ever seen made from the fiber. Mostly what you find are very, very rudimentary handicrafts that are very rough and difficult to rough. I happened upon someone in some volunteer work I was doing in marketing, a Nepali trade group that had developed a cotton Himalayan nettle blend and was doing some things with it, and a little light bulb went off in my brain, and I thought, this fiber has a lot more potential than just being used for animal leads and tump lines for carrying stuff up and down the mountains and making really, really rough handicrafts. So over the course of quite a few years, we analyzed different methods in which we could optimize the value of the fiber, and that's how I discovered it. And we eventually came to the conclusion that the way to maximize the economic input on the villagers who live in the mountains, and we refer to that as economic justice, economic justice, would be to just stay focused on the fiber so that we could command a really good price for it and then pay fairly for our raw material.
So what does the fiber look like when you sell it? Is it a refined thread or is it still rough?
Okay. Is that okay that I'm...
Yes, please. I'm glad.
This fiber is from our base fiber. We get it to this stage in Kathmandu, and then some people buy it like this, but it's the longest fiber known to man, and there's no spinning equipment in the world that can spin it at its natural length, which can be more than your camera can show. Wow. So right now we cut it, whether someone's buying this or this, we have to cut it. And then some of it goes to France and gets converted. It gets bleached and softened and converted to something called tops. I'm trying to get it into the camera there. And this is what we sell to Italian and French and German mills today.
Okay. And how are they using that fiber? What are they making with it?
Well, they're making, for example, knit. For the most part right now, our mill partners are focused on yarns for knitwear. So this is let me see if I can get in the camera properly. This is a 100% Himalayan nettle knit sample. It is most garments after they're produced from this kind of a yarn would go through a lot more finishing to make it really soft and drapey, etc. So this is just early state. And this is a wool Himalayan nettle blend. We've got a denim that's being developed.
Is that 100% Himalayan nettle?
Nettle, yes. And we will post soon on our site or through social media a video to the company, the head of the company that's developing this in France, who is our greatest advocate. He can't stop talking about how much he loves it, and there's a video of him doing that.
Now, some natural fibers that we farm end up covered in pesticides, and some argue that they're toxic to wear. Some would say the shirt I'm wearing might be toxic. What about the Himalayan nettle? How is that harvested, and are there the same kind of pesticide risks with the Himalayan nettle?
No, emphatically no. We can't substantiate this claim with hard science yet, but most people we talk to and who understand will agree with us that it is the most sustainable fiber and the cleanest, purest fiber on the market. It's like linen in that it comes from the stalk of a plant, but it grows wild in forests at altitude. There are no inputs. There's no water requirement. It doesn't grow on land that could be used for farming. I couldn't believe it when I started to research, when I was going to go out for money. I better find out the downside to this, because of course that's what we're going to get asked. And I kept going, well, what about this? It's a rhizome. So if you cut it, it grows back stronger. And it has, many people believe it has medicinal properties, both in the fiber, in the leaves, and in the seeds. We are only tapping into the fiber at the moment.
So how does the harvesting benefit the local community, the farmers who are harvesting it for you?
This is the reason I founded the company. I'll say something quite personal. I have 2 children whom I had adopted from Nepal, and they came to me from poverty, and they come from mountain families. And I felt that this was a gift that I needed, if there was a way that I wanted to repay. And when I discovered this fiber, I thought, this is a way I can repay it. So during the off season, the people who collect it are for the most part subsistence farmers. And most Westerners, people from developed nations, don't really understand what a subsistence farmer is. It's someone who subsists on the farming activity they do. A quarter of the time, they don't even grow enough to live, and they have to go to India or elsewhere to work. Maybe a quarter of the time, they grow enough to sell a little. Half the time, they just get by perfectly. So they have no cash with which to increase their wealth or buy school books for their children or medicines or anything. So during the off season, when their farming activity is in a lull during the winter period, they go into these forests at altitude, and it's really hard work. They cut the stalks, and they peel the bark ribbon. I can show you some bark ribbon, but anyway, off of it, and they let it dry, and they carry it down from the mountains. They carry sometimes 3, 4, 5 days to get to a trail where donkeys then can carry it to a roadhead. So it's very inaccessible. We pay fairly for that raw material. Consequently, the fiber is quite expensive, because with all the markup that goes into all the stages of the supply chain, you just can't help but have it be expensive. But we're working very hard to reduce our production costs, but we will not press down on the price that we pay for the raw material. That's negotiated with what are called community forest users groups, who've done a fantastic job in Nepal of reforestation of many areas that were wiped out. And a price is negotiated that means people will make between $2 and $3 a day. They don't earn a salary. They sell us by the weight. So they're still self-employed. They have their dignity, their farm. They're their own people. But we pay them fairly for the raw material we buy from them. Long answer to a simple question.
Yeah, no, it's a great answer, and clearly it is having a real impact on it. What are you seeing as you visit those folks in Nepal that are beginning to harvest for you? What kind of impact are you having on them?
The money is most often, unfortunately, sadly, it's used for food. In one part of the country, it's used to, we're still not scaled up a lot, so our impact isn't huge yet. When we scale, it will be, by Nepal's standards, huge. In one part of the country, they're actually using it to rebuild homes that were destroyed in the earthquake, the multiple earthquakes. They're also, for those who are lucky, they're able to increase their wealth by buying animals, new kinds of seeds that they can grow, medicines, school books, possibly send their children to Kathmandu to go to school, which has its own set of issues, but this is something that's important to them. So those are the sorts of things that they use the money for.
Now, let's talk a little bit about the environmental impact. You said this is good for the environment. How is it good for the environment to go take these rhizomes out of the forest?
Well, that's the key. We don't take the rhizome out. The rhizome, which grows horizontally underground, is not, if this was a cultivated crop, it would get all pulled out by some kind of cultivation equipment as it went through the forest or through the crop field. But instead, the roots go down and the stalks go up and the rhizome is horizontal. The stalks are cut. And by cutting those stalks, the rhizome plant has to divert less energy to sustaining a withering, dying last year's stalk and has more energy to build greater root structures, which helps with erosion and landslide control, which is a huge problem in Nepal, and also to send up new and more shoots the following year. And the stalks produce really big green leafy, they're big green, they produce big green leaves, which are great CO2 sinks. So again, none of this has been quantified. I don't know if it ever will be quantified, but forestry professionals in Nepal will agree with us that by cutting the old stalks, we're really most likely having a positive, not just a net neutral, but a positive impact on the environment.
That's great. Now, who is invested so far in your business?
We have 19 direct investors. We don't fit a profile that is often appealing to the impact asset investment funds. For example, a lot of them have their prospectus written, and instead of saying South Asia, they'll say India. And then they can't give us any money. It's been like the biggest frustration of my life. Others, interestingly, do not have livelihoods or income generation as a segment that they fund. They'll fund solar lighting, they'll fund human waste disposal turned into manure, all different kinds of education, but they don't fund the thing that everybody needs to buy that stuff. So this is the thing that was hitting my head against the wall early on until I discovered that there are individual high net worth investors who get it, that this simple, it's a very simple company. We're never going to be $500 million a year in revenue. We're going to be good sized, but then we're going to top out because this is a natural, wild growing natural resource. It's not ours to begin with, it belongs to the Himalayan people. So we want to ramp it up, give it its full value, and then at some point turn it over to them after we've all been compensated for our risk. But our 19 investors come from early on, obviously, some family and friends and acquaintances. And then a lot of them came through Baldwin Brothers, Inc., which is a wonderful firm based out of Marion, Mass. And they've been instrumental in helping us.
Fantastic. Now, your background started with working here in Utah, where I am, at Novell, a tech company. How on earth did you make a transition from that to Nepal?
My background started in New York, selling mainframe upgrades from 360s to 370s for IBM, for what used to be called the data processing division, if you can believe it. And then I went to work on Wall Street for a couple of years. And then I said, I'm out of here, and I went sailing for 3 years. When I quit sailing, I am a serial entrepreneur. Not until I moved to Nepal did I become an impact entrepreneur. But I started a very early networking company back when it was selling banyan vines and Novell Netwear. And Novell recruited me. We sold off the customer base to another company, and I ended up out in Utah working for Novell. I then left and did 8 years of consulting, helping mostly Bay Area companies, but some in Dallas, convert their technology to a product. And I based that work on a sort of a contrarian view of looking at who would be selling this, which was the channels. And so figure out a product that the channels would want to sell. So I developed a whole model that people wanted me to write about. But one day I was driving down Lombard Street on the way home from a consulting gig in Silicon Valley, and I just adopted my daughter from Nepal. Oh, I'd adopted her about a year before. And there was a billboard on the side of Lombard, and the billboard depicted about a 27-year-old young man sitting at a desk with an old-fashioned computer screen, one of those box screens, and his fist up in the air. And it looked like he was going to pound the desk, and the caption was, "I want my IPO." And I went home, and I called my sister, and I said, I'm going to sell my house. I'm going to go stay in Nepal for a while, get my head screwed on straight, and see if I can't do something more meaningful with my life.
And 18 years later, you're back.
20 now. By the time I saw that billboard to now is 20 years, yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well, you are a remarkable woman, and a lot of people look up to you. Who do you look up to as a role model?
Oh gosh. I haven't thought about that in a long time, and because my life, I have role models in Nepal. Olga Murray is an American. Do you know who Olga Murray is?
Sure. Great woman who advocated for ending slavery in Nepal.
Yes, and just a tiny bit. She has created the most amazing organization. There are people like that in Nepal and in Asia who I have the highest regard for. In America, I'm trying to think.
Well, Olga is a great answer. A phenomenal response.
Olga's a friend of mine. I love her, and I think her story of I'm 64. She started doing that when she was in her mid-60s. Yeah. After a career working for Supreme Court justices in California, this California Supreme Court. So that's my role model.
Yeah, great role model.
Thank you.
On the show a couple of years ago. So why you made quite a decision. You told us about the moment you saw IPO guy and made this switch, but you didn't really say why. Why did you feel compelled to shift gears in such a dramatic way?
Well, it wasn't the first time I'd shifted gears. I went from New York to sailing, but I felt that I wasn't making a difference. And I guess my father was very idealistic, and he started a couple of companies. He was ahead of his time, none of which were particularly successful, but he felt like he was really doing some good. And I've often said to people, I don't mean to sound like, oh, I have to do something good. It's kind of a curse. I wish I could be happy just having a regular job, but I'm not. I feel an emptiness. I'm being very personal. But so does that better answer your question?
Yeah, that's great. Now, Ellie, what is your superpower?
Laughing at everything.
You do have a great sense of humor.
My superpower, I think, is our lead investor says I have the most stick-to-itiveness of anyone he's ever encountered, and he's invested in a lot of impact startups. And he says I have guts and I have gumption and I will not quit. So that's not a superpower.
That's an excellent superpower.
Good. Okay, thank you.
Well, Ellie, we thank you for taking the time to be with us today. Before you go, tell us how people can learn more about Himalayan Wild Fiber and connect with you personally.
We have a website. It's Himalayan Wild Fibers with an S on the end, although we should register the fiber and have it direct. There's not a lot of information on it right now. We're just scaling up to have a big social media presence and a bigger marketing presence. So you can email me at Ellie@Himalayan Wild Fibers. We're in the middle of what we hope will be our last round of financing. And we'd love to hear from people who are interested in that, but we'd love to hear from people who have ideas and suggestions or who want to use the fiber in some way. We want to just point out, brands are contacting us all the time wanting to look at material such as what I showed before. And one of the reasons we have held back in getting more aggressive with marketing is because we don't have enough materials to show people. So our primary focus is on building up mill partners. Once we get the mills developing yarns, then we can begin to have fabrics and knitwear and other things that brands can work with. So if you contact us now, we will not be able to send you a lot of samples, but it's coming.
Great. Well, Ellie, thank you so much for being with us today. We wish you every success in growing your business and helping the people of Nepal.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it, and it was fun to talk about.
Thank you. Now, let's do some good. Clean Energy Advisors creates investment opportunities in the renewable energy sector that provide clients with predictable income, preservation of capital, and positive impact. Clean Energy Advisors is committed to providing clients with investment opportunities with both market rates of return and measurable impact.
Thank you for listening. This podcast was recorded via Google Hangouts on Air and is available at youtube.com/Devin Thorpe. Subscribe to this podcast on Stitcher or iTunes by searching for Your Mark on the World. Every weekday, Devin hosts a CEO, celebrity, entrepreneur, or other changemaker here on the Your Mark on the World show to inspire and prepare you to make your mark. Devin is a champion of social good, writing about, advocating for, and advising people who are doing good. He is a Forbes contributor who is a recognized thought leader in social entrepreneurship, impact investing, and crowdfunding. To book Devin as a speaker, visit devinthorpe.com. Learn more about Devin's work at yourmarkontheworld.com.